Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on?
I'm laughing every time we start this show.
Anna's gonna cut your cord. That's what's gonna happen.
I'm wireless now. You're gonna have some hard time cutting this cord. I'm wireless.
She gonna cut your cord figuratively over the internet. Cut the internet cord. Guys, what's going on? Community Beacon, Michaeldseville, Palm Beach, Florida. Your real estate guy here with my co-host with the most, Mr. Joel Simmons with the Tenacity Foundation. He says he doesn't even want to talk. He want to get right into it. Let me do this real quick. Monday nights, what it takes. Check us out. Wednesday, it starts with me. 12:30, YouTube. Check it out, Tenacity Foundation. Friday, Community Beacon, 6:30. Okay, let's roll credits. I did it. Like, subscribe, hit the button.
Let's go, man. Let's go.
No, what is it? We press it into the unknown. Oh man, last week was awesome. We talked about this fear, which we're reframing into awareness. Like the fear is just this thing that's making you aware of things that's going on. You know what's interesting about that, brother, is that why I say it's awareness is because our most lives are just a continuous loop. Most people do the same thing every day, nothing different happening. And then when all of a sudden, boom, something happens, that's that fear that pops up because we're so used to being in the loop. But now we're pressing into the unknown, and now we're not living that life. Now only 20-30% of our life is the same. That might be your morning routine. After that, you know what I mean? You're jumping right into it. And especially I know on your side, when you're doing all these meetings, etc., you don't know what the other person's side, especially if you're coming from a place of empathy, which I know you do. You don't necessarily know what the other side has going on. So you're reaching out, you're having these different conversations, you're pressing into the unknown. So let's talk about it.
Perfect. I mean, great setup right there. I thought about so many different things while you were talking about this. I just had this conversation with my daughter, my middle girl, earlier today because, she had expressed something to me that was difficult, and she took me back to the point in time that the thought first came. She was having this conversation and then, she got the inkling that she should share the conversation with me. And she said, not right now. And so today she just said it just like that. It was silence. And then she just said it, and I'm very grateful that all the different things have happened to make me the type of individual that I am today, because I felt like I was able to handle it really well. And the results of that was that our communication grew. And I think we both grew a little bit in that moment. To what extent, we'll find out, because this is literally fresh, y'all. It's very fresh,
right?
And so my words to her was, number one, good job, because soon as she said it, and then I responded in a way that was acceptable both for me as a parent and her as my daughter. Then she told me, she said that was hard, and that was very powerful, because for a split second I didn't recognize how difficult that was for her, because she just said it. That's how powerful this moment was. And I told her, I was like, that was courageous. That's exactly what that was. Remember last week, we ended off talking about bravery. And I was like, that was courageous, because I never even saw the difficulty. And that's the thing about it. Like when we watch these TV shows and these kids watch TV shows, and when I used to watch when I was a kid, It was just like you see the good guy and somebody would fall off the building and the good guy would never think about it. They would just jump.
Right.
There was no thought. And you ever get in that situation where you got to do something, someone being chased by a dog, or somebody, something's happening, a car is on its way. Most people freeze. They don't just do. Right. But there's a split second thought right there. And in that split second, you're either going to think and most likely not do, or you're going to instinctually move forward. You're going to press into the unknown instinctually. You're just going to do instead. And that's exactly what she did at that moment. And that's the reason why I was unable to recognize how difficult it was. That was powerful. I want to come up for air, and hear what you have to say about that before I tell you about the loop.
I was looking at this levels of consciousness. I was trying to find it on Google real quick before you finished talking. But I loved how you mentioned because the level of consciousness, when you reach empowerment, that's the courage section. You know what I mean? That's when you get out of forcing it, etc. It goes into courage. But prior to that, as you go lower into the levels of consciousness, you got pride, you got anger, you got desire, you have fear, you have grief, apathy, guilt, shame is at the bottom of the list. But you going into empowerment actually starts at being courageous. So for you to notice that, and you spoke about this time,
bravery,
the courageousness before you use bravery. I'm going to use those two synonymously. Is that once you get to that point, once you get over the fear or the pride of, I purported myself to be this, because it was most oftentimes we're attempting to be validated by society. Now, when I'm no longer when you start to self-validate, when you start to seek higher, you go into courage. It takes courage to do like the simple to speak, right? Like to whatever it was that she said to you, for her just to blurt out. That took courage for her to do that. That's an empowerment move. It's going up this ladder of consciousness, all the way going up to love, reason, joy. And then I want to speak about how you responded to it. And I love that you used the word responded versus react. Because oftentimes when fear happens, we just react to it. It's the first thing that comes to that our body, our instinctually happens. Is our first instinct, whatever it is, as opposed to responding. And how you respond is not necessarily, obviously this is a new stimulus. This is something new is happening. But the respond comes from being when you're vibrating on a different level. And that's you just working on yourself over and over and taking and having these different experiences in life. You spoke on that earlier, where you said, I'm glad that I had these different experiences I had in life, because at that point you will be able to respond. You know what else helps with responding, people? Meditation. Meditation will give you those extra 2-3 seconds when you're stimulated, when something happens, for you to take the time to respond versus to react. And brother, you are a firefighter, so I'm sure you see people react in all kinds of ways if they're not prepared for a situation, right? But your job is not to react. Your job is to respond. Isn't that what it is? You're an emergency responder. Even in the title, you're an emergency responder. Words mean something. I'm so big on these different words that we have. So you get to respond, and you respond. And she said something that was courageous, and you in turn responded how you responded. And from that point on, your relationship changes, because that can easily come off in a way where, okay, I'm never going to talk to this person again because they reacted this way. They overreacted. You know what I mean? And truth be told, sometimes people can underreact. They may not necessarily react, have the response that's equivalent to whatever the stimulus was. So that's what I have to say about it, brother. Awesome job, first off. Great fathers. I'm all about great fathers. Go ahead, brother. Appreciate
it. Well, you mentioned another part, loop. So there was a point following after that, when I had an opportunity to recognize exactly the depth of what was going on, because I told her, because it got quiet, Mike, it got quiet. Mm-hmm. And when it got quiet, I told her, I said, you know what that is? See that silence here? I said, that's not real silence. That's thoughts happening. That's you thinking, and that's me thinking. And it's filling the atmosphere, and it's like, I'm just like breathing this in, because this is a really powerful moment, because I recognize it. I felt the cloud inside of the vehicle. And so I didn't have a word to say immediately, because I was thinking, and so was she. But I also know that sometimes if there isn't a word, then that means something. And if there is a word and it's the wrong word, that also means something. So what I opted to do is just speak about what was happening, the process.
Right.
And that ended up being very well received. And as I spoke about the process, that's when the Lord gave me this. I said, see, sometimes what it is like people are in this loop. Mm-hmm. And that's what you just mentioned about a loop. And I started to give her I made an example. We were nearby like a school, and we talked about the loop. When we talked about the loop, I said people can get in this loop, and it's like they're waiting at school and they're just waiting to pick up their kid, and they keep going around this loop, but the kid isn't out of school yet. And they get frustrated because they're in the loop, but it's their choice. So being intentional is the only way you can get out of the loop.
Yeah.
You have to actually decide, I'm no longer going to be in the loop. I'm going to park. I'm going to wait patiently. I'm going to go inside. Whatever the step is that you're going to do, you have to make a choice, or you can choose to continue to go around the loop and just wait as you travel. That's okay. It doesn't matter which one you do, but you have to make a choice, and that's bravery. Bravery is making the choice versus allowing the choice to make you. And that's where an individual steps into courageousness, I believe, is when they make a choice to do something rather than allow life to just do something to them. I'll give one more point with that. As people, we found that rainwater can actually be distilled. So as people, we began to catch rainwater, and we began to pass it through processes to distill it, to make rainwater drinkable. Because maybe for whatever reason, we're in a location where the water's polluted, or it's too salty. So we distill the water, because if it's too salty, it'll kill us. It'll dry us up. It's no good for us. And if it's polluted, it'll kill us or augment our bloodstream if God allows us to continue to live. We'll get sick. So we distill it. Now, uncaught, unfiltered rainwater in tremendous amounts, what it does is when it lands on the ground, it creates cavities in the ground, and it changes the face of the earth, because it has enough power and potential to change whatever it touches. It just has to continue to drip.
Yeah.
Even a small drip, right, brother? Even a small drip from off the side of, what's the little railing that's on the top of the roofs that catches water? I'm lost for words right now. Yeah. But at the edge of the roof, what's that?
The gutter?
The gutters. Sometimes we let the gutters get clogged with leaves, and the water will spill over the side, and a drip will destroy the grass there. Then it'll cavitate the ground, and it'll start to dig a hole in the ground by a small drip. But if you catch it, you can distill it, you can reuse it, or you could move it. And I think that is the difference of making a choice. That's the difference of being courageous, is instead of allowing for circumstances to create in you a cavity or to direct your paths, you make a choice to direct your own.
So it's almost like, what is it? You know what I mean? Because here's the process. Here's the thought. Is that the loops and the energies are so powerful that it keeps one stuck in the same place, right? From going out and then pressing into the unknown. Although we know the unknown, you know, it makes
it's unknown.
Yeah, it's unknown. So so for a lot of people, it's a scary place. But where a lot of people are is a scary place. Like, a lot of people's thought processes are scary places and they don't know it. So what is it? Is it exposure, to people, to a different environment, to what? But I've seen people who went off and came right back to what it was that they knew. You know what I mean? The moment, the almost that self-fulfilling prophecy, to where the moment that something proves to us that it was something, we go back to the regular. Oh, I knew this was a scam. The moment you don't make no money. Oh, I knew this wasn't gonna work. It just takes. It might be the slight. Oh, I knew those people were racist because of this one. There's one instance. Oh, I knew, and we're so quick to go back to this different energy. So that pull, because something has to be holding most people in place, even us. Because we all have our battles that we fight on a daily basis. So there's a pull that that wants to keep us, and I think some of us just tend to be. So what is it? Right? It is the bravery. It is the courage. Is that learned, or is that how is one inspired to move out of the different position, and then when they move out of the position, not wait for that one thing to happen to just prove ourselves right, our old selves right, because that's what it is, and to go back into our old selves because the pain of something new is worse than the pain that we're feeling currently, if that makes sense.
Man, I love that question. This is what came to my mind. Lord, don't move my mountain. Give me the strength to climb. Lord, don't take away my stumbling stones. Just lead me all around. That old Negro spiritual came to my mind, and maybe I didn't represent the song well to somebody out there, but Anna said I was all right. But that's what came to my mind. It's like, in that old Mahalia Jackson song, it was like, Lord, don't move my mountain. Give me the strength to climb. And that is the lesson. That's what you were talking about. And you made me think about that, because I gave two different examples that I want to just piece together in my testimony. One, that my daughter had mentioned that she had thought about this a long time ago, but it wasn't until now that she found the courage to just do it.
Right.
Let me give you this one little tidbit. I call her my neighbor. She calls me her neighbor. She said, "Hey, neighbor," right? Because the room next door is hers. So when we're doing what we do here, she can hear it. Okay. And she's like, she's listened to all these different things and heard the different things, the remedies that have been given to so many, that have helped so many, and the lessons that we have learned inside of these types of shows and that we've given over the course of all this time. And she made mention of that. That after hearing all of those different things, she found the courage. She didn't use the word courage, but she said she found that she could do it from listening to those things.
I think more so listening, and I'm cutting you off, brother, but not only listening, but watching. She's watching you step into this into this new season of your life, right? Like she's watching that, so she gets to hear you say it, and then she gets to see you do it. So it's like, and this was, and guys, like, this is the biggest reason for me with the community, just social media, period, is that I want my kids, I want my sons, my children, the people that come after me, God will, God is with us, to be able to see and watch, like, oh, this is what it is. Elijah sees me up at 3:30 in the morning. I seen the brother set his alarm clock at one point in time to the time I was getting up at 3:30, or maybe he was trying to go to bed. I don't know, but his phone was set because
Dad's gonna be up at 3:30. I gotta be back in the bed. Set the alarm for 3:25.
I wouldn't put it past him. He's a smart brother, but it's like he sees that. He knows, like today he needed me to wash his clothes. He knows to put a sticky note on my headphones here, because he knows that I'm gonna go out the door. He knows that I'm gonna pick up my headphones, and at 4 o'clock or whatever time it is, I'm headed out to go to the gym, and I'm back, and I'm getting him, and I get on the phone. He hears me on the phone, do my prospecting before I have to take him to the bus stop, etc. Same thing with your kids. They're watching and they're seeing, and this is the power. I'm talking about building powerful children, specifically powerful black men, powerful black boys. Because we've had we've had some decent black men, but there's not enough powerful black men. So because we have to be able to see, so they have to see that, right? So now you got your daughter who's coming out and being courageous, when it's so easy to just keep it in and just let time do its thing. That's what we end up doing, right? We let time do its thing. And time doesn't do us well if we just leave it up to it. You're right. Like when you didn't want to look at your bank account, I don't want to look at my bank account. And then you don't prevent yourself from going overdrafted or something. Or I don't want to look at this bill. Okay, don't look at the bill. Right? But it's happening.
It's happening.
When you can do that. So this thing is happening. So for you to do that, brother, pat yourself on the back. If not, I'm patting you on the back here. Is that for her to see, not only hear, because she could easily say, "Oh, this man is he's just talking on this thing every time." You know how it go. He over there. I'm in this room and he just talking. Nah, he's doing. Oh, okay. So now I can do, because I seen it. I got him, and he's behind me because I know he got me. She's saying that because she knows that you have her. Listen, man, this is some powerful work. This is the presence, the power and the presence of you being there, and you walking that walk and you talking that talk. And yes, we will mess up sometimes, right? We're not perfect, but overall, the overarching thing is that this is how when my father was around and did what he did and said what he said, how I felt. Because she's not even going, that may be one of those conversations that you remember for the rest of your life. But there was a lot of conversations that we had that brought us to the place that we are where we are now, right? I know one of my huge conversations with my grandfather when he said something to me. And I remember that at 5, probably 4 or 5 years old, something like that, when he said something to me that made me feel like, oh, I'm going to walk around with my chest out of my head up because this person who I respected and who talks the talk and walks the walk said this to me. You understand what so, man, kudos to you on that, guy. Pressing into the unknown, I want to end it with this, is that it makes it a little bit easier when you got that backup. When you going out into that jungle or wherever it is, because I want to go back to, because this goes back thousands of years. This is human evolution. This is where all this fear and all this stuff comes from. It comes from all the way back in the day. Human evolution. But when you had that tribe behind you, when you had those people to support you, when you knew that, oh man, my father did it. He went out there and I saw my father slay this, thinking of the 300. I saw we know you got to slay that wolf. Well, the Spartans before me slayed the wolf. So now I got this thing when I go out there. You send Leonidas out there, he's looking. Okay, there it is. But because I know where I come from and I know what's back there and what I'm going back to, I know that this thing can be done. regardless of this, although this is my first time, and the fear, the awareness is rising up in me, right? I know that this can be done, and I got these people to support behind me. Who's to say that those Spartans were hiding out in the woods just in case it did go wrong, that they were there to help? You know what I mean? But this guy has to face this thing first, as far as becoming, in regards to the tribe. I certainly believe that maybe the tribe was behind them. But either way, it's that support and the knowing of seeing and knowing that these are the strong men and we can do it. Man, let's go. Man, this was.
I love it.
I mean, I love the story.
I think that you answered that question too. The question that you asked me, that's the answer. This is absolutely, and it's not to say that this can be an unlearned thing, but it is 100% a skill that can be learned.
Yeah.
And I feel like we need to make sure that that's crystal clear to our audience and to whoever may be watching this, because you may not be watching this today. You may be watching this next year when you finally figure out that this was worth watching. I don't care when you watch it. We got people right now, but the idea is just that if you have this, use it. If it's for your children, remember they watching you or they listening to you, just like they listening to Mike or listening to me, or like we listen to our parents. I came out, I'm a very empathetic person because my mother was so dear to me as we grew up, and that was her characteristics. So that's what I have inside of me. It's a learned thing. These are learned things. Just about everything is skill. There's skill in everything. You can learn how to do anything. Yeah. So I just love it. This was great. Pressing to the unknown, y'all. And one more thing. When I was talking about the analogy of the water, Mike brought it back. You brought that thing back because when you were talking about the thought process, is like that was the dripping of the water, creating a cavity in the ground. And then you were talking about just allowing your mind to just go, just allowing for things to just happen. And that's a continual dripping into your lifestyle, creating a cavity on the inside of your body, on the inside of your mind, on the inside of your heart. And many times people that get brokenhearted, their hearts it's nothing but a void. And it keeps stuffing all these different things in it, but it never comes close to what you've been losing. Even with the scriptures in the book of Ephesians, the 4th chapter, I think it talks about how God is the father of all. Now, all are not the children of God, like some people would say. They're just not. That's scriptural too. But God is the father of all because he created all. But as we grow older, sometimes we separate ourselves from God. That is a continual dripping. The separation is getting larger and larger. And the cavity that you have inside of your soul cannot be filled by another individual if the cavity is from the lack of relationship between you and the Almighty. Just like I could never fill the cavity in my heart from the lack of my biological father over the many years. It devoured me from the inside out. I had to do something eventually. And me not knowing, I was going around in that loop in circles, because I didn't even know what I didn't know until I got old enough to know this is what I'm missing. Then I intentionally got out of the loop and made something happen. Press into the unknown.
Press into the unknown. Oh man, guys, listen. It's getting deep, man. So we appreciate you all for checking in. Next week is the next week. What do we have? Hope is a blueprint. Hope is a blueprint. I'm excited to learn and talking and getting that episode, guys. We appreciate you.
Don't forget the other half, brother.
Huh?
Don't forget the other half of it.
What's the other half?
Hope is a blueprint. Faith is an action.
Let's go. I love that. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you next week, man. Appreciate you.